Dr. Betts, thank you very much for agreeing to speak with me. We have a camera here, and it's going to be recording you, but you don't have to worry about that. You can just look at me.
Great.
I'm interested in writing a paper on mental health on college campuses, and I'm just here to gather some ideas from you about what kind of topics I could explore and to get a sense of what you do here. Why don't you begin by telling a little bit about the services that Ball State's Counseling Center provides?
Sure. The Counseling Center is designed to help meet the mental health needs of students at Ball State. And we provide a variety of services. Probably the one that students most expect is individual therapy. You'd come into an office like this, you'd sit down and talk one-to-one with a therapist. Sometimes they're folks with master's degrees, sometimes they're folks with doctoral degrees.
How are students made aware of those resources specifically?
Sure. Typically, we make those known to students when we do orientation. So every new student comes in, we have part of orientation that we meet with students and parents. So even before their students here, we have orientation tours that come through the Counseling Center and in fact stop at our relaxation room, which some students may know is a room where there are resources that students could check out. We also have those big vibrating chairs for relaxation that students and faculty are able to use for free. And so aside from that, we also mention it at pretty much every opportunity we have.
Right.
Every outreach we do, we'll mention some of those other resources that are available on campus. So.
Very good, thank you. What services are in greatest demand for you at the Counseling Center?
Well, across the country, what we're experiencing in college counseling centers is an increase in the number of students requesting individual psychotherapy. That's sitting down with a therapist. Those numbers have been growing nationally about 3 to 5% a year. Some places have seen really big growth. Last year we saw about a 16% growth in the number of students who are requesting services.
So you've been here about a year, right?
A little over a year, yes.
First year going.
Yeah. It's good. I think, you know, coming in, and I don't know if you remember about a year ago, there were many articles in the newspaper about the long wait times for psychotherapy appointments at the Counseling Center. There were students across campus who were protesting in trustee meetings, and doing social media campaigns and those kinds of things. What was really nice about that was that the Ball State community really cares about mental health. And, you know, not every college campus has that kind of strong support. But we knew that that was the number one thing we had to work on, was figuring out how to see more students quicker.
So how does the Campus Counseling Center differ from another kind of mental health care facility? It's got to be a unique approach, right? I'm sure there's lots of theory about how to deal with that.
It is and it isn't.
Okay.
So in many ways, it's a really sort of targeted group. If you think about community mental health, you have folks that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. We have fewer of those folks coming into the Counseling Center. The issues that students deal with are often pretty straightforward. You know, I kind of talk about college as being a perfect storm of stress. You spend your whole high school years trying to get into the right college. You then get in, you leave everybody you know at home, all your friends, all your family. You move to a strange city where you don't know how to get around. You move into a room that's about the size of your bedroom at home, with a complete stranger sometimes, right? And then we put you under a whole bunch of academic stress. And what you find is that that's a lot for students to manage. And so that is a very predictable set of concerns. Now, whether folks have anxiety because of that or depression, that's a little variable. But that's probably the place where things are slightly different than community mental health, is the fact that it is that sort of one population.
So the situational factors
Absolutely.
are more pressing with this particular plan.
Absolutely. And what I will tell you is that there is a really strong professional group of counseling centers across the country and universities. And so we work together, we gather data, we do research together to really target students' needs. And that's the really nice part about it is that we learn from each other and we're able to address very similar issues amongst various campuses.
So I'm thinking about sort of the popular sense that there's an increase in anxiety and depression and mental health issues among college students. How do you sort of account for this trend? Do you feel that it's something to do with the number of students going into college, or is it to do with other factors about the students themselves? Or
Sure. You know, that 18 to 24-year-old age range is kind of special. About 18% of the U.S. population actually has a condition that would be a diagnosable mental health condition. Now, before everybody gets freaked out at how high that number is, it doesn't mean that those conditions interfere with their day-to-day activity. The number of folks that have those issues are much smaller. But when you look at various age groups across the lifespan, the group with the highest rates of mental health concerns are that 18 to 24-year-old range, and that's college or not in college. Biologically, many mental health issues begin to show themselves during that age range. So things like schizophrenia is more likely to have its onset, which means when it begins during that age range. But also, again, getting back to that perfect storm that we talk about, it doesn't matter whether you go to college or not. This is oftentimes you're moving out on your own, you're starting your first job or your career. There's lots of relationship pressures. This is when many folks find somebody and get married, and so there's a lot of those pressures that just sort of happen for this group. It's when you kind of learn who you are and who you want to be. Once you move out from your family, you're kind of on your own, and you can do whatever you want. So
for those people who say, we didn't have all of this when I was in college, you know, those stress factors have probably always been there for 18 to 24-year-olds going to college. Is the increase have to do with maybe shifting attitudes about mental health care? Does it have to do with higher students going to college? Can you speak to those?
Yeah, I think we don't exactly know. Folks are doing research out there. I don't think we have one specific factor that we can point to. If you look at, certainly in the popular press, you'll see that lots of folks have cited the rise of social media and the pressure to sort of put your best self out there in the public space. Folks have talked about just the sort of always-on nature of cell phones and iPads and iPods and all of those things. There are some generational changes that folks have talked about. The students who are just coming to college now probably got their first cell phone, smartphone, when they were early teens and have known nothing different. And so some folks have theorized that that's part of it. But I think, you know, ultimately, the issues are not that different from what we experienced before. And I think the good news is that students are coming to the counseling center. I will tell you anecdotally, the students that we see are much more willing to talk about mental health concerns or to share those concerns with their friends than in the past. There was a time when we would have to sort of go out on campus and encourage people to come see us. That day is over. And so the good news is that folks are really beginning to seek out that treatment.
So it may be a positive thing, this indication.
Absolutely.
Mental health
Absolutely.
care is
The trick is that we need to then figure out how to meet the need that's out there. And again, it's, are we getting better at recognizing these? Probably. Are folks more willing to ask for help? Probably. One of the big things that we're looking at the Counseling Center now is also how to build resiliency. So, which is the ability to bounce back when something that you didn't expect happens, and to help folks sort of learn those skills before they wind up at the Counseling Center. And so we're working on some initiatives that we hope will help build in that skill for students, because it is just a skill that you can learn. Many students are surprised to realize that, hey, there's some things you can teach me and I can just do these just like something I'm learning in class.
Right.
So.
Yeah, some healthy habits for themselves. What else does someone who's interested in learning more about or researching mental health on college campus, what else would you direct them to look into? What else do they need to know?
Sure. I think certainly emerging topics in this area are the shift in using mental health on college campuses. There's, as I said, there's a lot in popular literature, but there's also a lot in the peer-reviewed literature where folks are looking at what accounts for this trend that we've started seeing. And it's not just more students, it's students with more severe needs that we're seeing, more suicide. Or at least students reporting about thinking about suicide and needing to get them to services quickly. So that's certainly a topic that's important. I think, you know, the topic of resiliency or grit that it's sometimes talked about is an important one. There's a lot being written about how you help folks that are coming into college or the business world be able to sort of bounce back when things don't turn out the way they thought they would. And so there's a lot being written around that as well. So.
And can you provide some resources for me?
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Betts, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your insight on these topics.
Thank you.